Irons versus red dot, the subtle details you might have missed before. Watch this to the end. First up, iron sights. See how the front sight's in focus, but the rear sight and target are totally blurred? That's exactly what happens when using irons. Eyes can't focus on three things at once: the front sight, the rear sight, and the target. At best, maybe you can see two, but realistically, the front sight gets all the attention, leaving the target looking fuzzy. And this is what you often hear from people who teach you how to shoot. They tell you to focus on the front sight. But what about lining up those rear and front sights? It's not exactly intuitive. Even seasoned shooters struggle to nail that alignment every time. Now, let's shift focus to the target. Everything else blurs, the rear sights is gone, and the front sight is barely visible. It makes very little difference when using bright fiber optics or tritium night sights. They're just there to provide quick aiming reference for the peripheral vision. On top of that, some iron sights are just too thick, which totally blocks the target. Well, this is more of an issue for people shooting at smaller targets far away, but even with those thin tritium front sights, they can still cover up the target quite a bit. While most defensive shooting happens within bad breath distance, handguns with iron sights will perform just fine, but that debate will be for another video. And that's the trade-off with irons. Either the sights or the target stays sharp, and new shooters often yank at the trigger, jerking the barrel way off target. Now when using a red dot, no more bouncing between sights and the target. Just stare at the target, slap the dot on it, and shoot. In terms of focusing on the target in a stressful situation, under stress, your body flips into survival mode. Your adrenaline dumps, pupils dilate, and the brain prioritizes processing threats. This literally narrows your field of view. In another word, you're going to have that tunnel vision to focus only on the danger. This is a primal reflex where your eyes lock onto the threat with both eyes open. Under stress, fine motor skills also degrade. Aligning 3 points, rear sight, front sight, and the target, becomes extremely difficult. So a red dot simplifies it to one rule: put the dot on the threat and press the trigger. Tunnel vision already limits peripheral awareness. So closing one eye commonly with irons makes it worse, and red dots work with both eyes open, so you can still have some level of awareness around you. Also, in low light situations, red dot is much more visible than irons as long as the target is lit up, and you won't be dealing with the front sight blocking the target. So a metaphoric way of explaining this is that stress forces your eyes to behave like a camera stuck on zoom. Red dots lean into that instinct instead of fighting it. Iron sights require precision your brain abandons in survival mode. Red dots keep it simple, just point and shoot. The dot's supposed to float and superimpose on the target. You, the shooter, can slightly move your head position while the dot remains parallax-free. With the dot literally slaved to the barrel, even if the shooter hand is tremoring slightly, you get instant feedback on where the barrel is pointing, and this just makes aiming way easier assuming you have zeroed it correctly. So there are plenty of handgun red dot options available on the market. Big window optics are people's favorite because they let you find the dot easier within the window. However, this still requires a lot of training to get proficient. One of people's favorites are those ring reticles because they provide visible outer radius before they totally disappear past the lens frame. Depend on how you manage recoil and the firing speed, the dot will often disappear, and these ring edges helps guide the eye back to the center, like with this ACSS Vulcan reticle here. Also, dot sizes matter too. Often, people with astigmatism or with any sort of bad eyesight will see a blurry reticle or they appear really smeared. Also, red or green dot doesn't matter that much. However, this can be mitigated by correcting the eyesight along with using a 3 or 6 MOA dot. If you had to pick a dot size for handgun use, always go with 6 if you can, because they appear rounder than a tiny dot, and cranking up the dot brightness, the starburst doesn't totally obscure the reticle. Now that you're armed with this knowledge, you understand the value red dot provides for pistol shooting. If you want to see more red dot optics, just watch these videos right here.